The third step, and probably the most difficult and arguably the most important piece, is you got to start creating a comprehensive care plan or a plan of action. And what I mean by that is that in my experience and the experience of the other attorneys and folks here in the office, the problem with most people and conditions like Alzheimer's is they're perpetually chasing the problem. They're perpetually chasing the disease. This disease is moving at its own pace. It's an incremental pace. It doesn't wear a watch, doesn't have a smartphone or a day planner, so it's moving at its own pace, and you don't control that pace. The other major problem with this is that when we, in hindsight, look back over someone's needs, we can see the change. So if we're dealing with someone with dementia, and I compare that person's care needs today to yesterday, it's often going to be no change. But when I compare the difference in what that person's needs are from today to today last year, there's often a very significant change. So we only see this stuff in hindsight. So my suggestion, and the thing that we've really worked on here, is changing the conversation about this. Let's start thinking in terms of where things are going and planning ahead. So if we have a trajectory like this, what I want folks to do is start building bright lines and saying, when these events occur, whatever those events are, and you're going to determine what those are, but when these events occur, what needs to change? What shift needs to happen? So a great example is a few years ago, we had a gentleman who came into the office here, and he was a big guy. And when I say big guy, think professional football linebacker. And he came in and he was taking care of his mom, and mom was merely frail. And I told him about this care plan concept, and I said, we need to start thinking in these terms. And he said to me, you're crazy, because I have nursing experience. I don't need to do this. I can take care of all my mom's needs. And me, being me, and discussing this with him, I asked him if he was prepared to deal with his mom's eventual bathroom needs, and he became very uncomfortable. And we opened the conversation about this, and the conversation became, if that happened, what would he do? Would mom stay with him and he would do it? Would he hire a caregiver? Would mom move to a different level of care or location of care? Maybe the choice was mom was going to move in with sister. The critical piece of this care plan is everybody needs to be involved in it, right? Because then they know what's going on. So if the plan is mom's moving in with sister, does sister know that's the plan, or is the plan to show up on sister's doorstep on a Saturday and drop mom off and ring the doorbell and say, here's mom now? You got to have everybody as part of your plan. The other big piece about this needs to be a systemic plan. It can't be exclusive to the individual. So we want to look at the entire system of care we have in place. So if you are a caregiver for your spouse, and your care plan only deals with his needs or her needs, you're missing an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. And that is, what happens if something happens to you? Let's say you run into the grocery store to get a gallon of milk. And on your way out of the store, you trip, you fall, you break your ankle. What's the problem with a broken ankle? The problem with a broken ankle is that you can't be weight bearing for 6 weeks, and that is not the time you want to be hiring in-home care to help your husband while you're on your back, rehabilitating the broken ankle. You have to be thinking in terms of what's going to happen and getting in front of the problem. Where are things going to go? So your care plan, if you're doing this right, is going to deal with systemic changes in your physical, financial, emotional, and mental condition, and any changes, what are you going to do?